Hi everybody. Again, welcome to EDU 250. The purpose of this video is to give you some highlights of Chapter 1, which is entitled Why Teach. I've given you a PowerPoint that the publisher puts out, but it's really highlights salaries and statistics and surveys, and there's a lot more to consider in this chapter, and there are some other things I want to bring in as well. So EDU 250 is generally the first class that most people take in their teacher preparation program. Now I know it doesn't apply to all of you. I know that many of you already have a fair amount of education courses under your belt and are taking this course because you want to. Some of you are taking it because it's required for your preparation program. EDU 250 is required for the secondary ed folks, and now it or another introductory course is required for elementary ed folk as well. And as we get the early education and early elementary pathways put together, it's also going to be required for that. And so why is this course required? Because it serves as sort of an introduction to the landscape of teaching and helps you to think deeply about what it means to be a teacher. It introduces you to some of the good and some of the bad. It's important that we look critically at the profession and even, is it a profession we're going to look at as well. And so it also orients you to praxis exams, certification rules, portfolios. So we do a lot of introductory work in this course. At the same time, we're really looking critically at our motives for wanting to become a teacher and our ideas about becoming a teacher. Now, having said that, I know that sometimes ILS students take this course, and we're happy to have you. I love having ILS students because it gives us another perspective. But the course is about teaching, and I would argue that library media specialists, librarians, research librarians are teachers. They may not teach in a classroom like a third grade teacher or a 10th grade teacher, but they certainly are teachers. And so this will be good for you as well, even though some of the standards won't apply to you. It'll be good practice for you. Okay. So some of the things that I want to point out to you on pages 5 through 7 in your text, there's a part called "You Be the Judge," and these chapters offer these for almost every chapter, where it really gives you point counterpoint. And I think this one is particularly good to look at. So I'm just going to kind of highlight some things, but I'd like you to read this carefully and then think about it, because in the first discussion forum for this week, I'm asking you to write about why you want to become a teacher, and I've given you some sentence starters to kind of finish up. But I think this will help you as well. So, so it's good, bad, point counterpoint. So why become a teacher? Well, because you're not alone working at a computer screen. You're interacting with young people. Well, yes, you are, but look at me. I'm working along with a computer screen and I'm teaching. So the nature of teaching is changing, and a lot of schools they're using more computer-generated teaching aids. Putting up videos for students to view and read and then come to class to discuss or work. Some courses are in high schools are going online completely, and I suspect that we'll see that filtering down to middle school. And so you may not be working in a cubicle next to somebody else, but you still, there is some downtime. You're not just with kids all the time. And then so the counterpoint to that is there sometimes you can't get away from students. They're just everybody wants a piece of you. All the students want a piece of you. The principal wants a piece of you. The school nurse, the guidance counselor. Sometimes it seems as though you can't get away from it. So there's the good and the bad there. Point 2 is that the good is that it gives you a chance to create well thought out lesson plans that are going to inspire children, and the children are going to think you're the best teacher they've ever had. And that's a great ideal to have, but the counterpoint to that is that who cares? Who outside your classroom will care? You'll find that even though you want to share a lot of this work with your fellow teachers, they may or may not be receptive to hearing that. In fact, as your book points out, there's a little cheering outside the classroom. So it's not a class, it's not a profession where you get a lot of of kudos. A lot of the work is self-satisfied. Okay, so if you're kind of an ego person and need to have people pat you on the back all the time, this is not going to be the place that's going to happen. Occasionally you get sort of that's a good job, that sort of thing. But mostly, you're teaching by yourself in a classroom with students, and so, you know. And then three is that it's a lot of pride in being a teacher, and it garnishes a lot of respect, and that's true. But the other side of that is that teachers right now are really under siege, and there really doesn't seem to be a lot of respect for teachers. I mean, you can't pick up a newspaper without somebody saying that the schools are horrible, students aren't learning anything, test scores are terrible, it's all the teacher's fault. So take both sides and look at it. And then the fourth one is that becoming a teacher, you'll be surrounded by these intellectuals that have intellectual stimulation. Yes, you may, if you're lucky, but the other side of that is that, after you've taught for several years, it can get boring because there's a lot of repetition. If you teach a fifth grade class, every year for 10 years, and it's the same curriculum and the same content, it can get a little stifling. The counterpoint to that is that you can, if you surround yourself with intellectual stimulation, you can keep your lessons fresh and exciting, and you won't get bored. 5 is that being a teacher is creative. You get to be like a professional artist in creating wonderful, interactive, and great, putting together these wonderful text sets, giving kids multiple ways to learn. Absolutely. But again, just similar to the last one, it can get into this mindless routine as well if you let it. Okay. But the other part is there's a lot of that non-teaching stuff that you have to do too, and that can really wear you down. Taking attendance and all of that kind of stuff. It really can. Number 6, you want to be a teacher to make a difference. I think we all do. I would hope that in any of our professions we want to make a difference in the workplace, in the world, to be a good citizen. But then if you have these idealistic goals, they can get squashed really quickly if you're not careful. You can be worn down to survival mode sometimes, and it's up to you to keep it fresh, okay? Instead of getting frustrated. Teachers make a decent salary, and then the counterpoint to that is maybe they make more than maybe someone working in a fast food restaurant, but teachers' salaries are not. You don't want to be a teacher if you want to get rich. Let's put it that way. The beginning beginning salary for a teacher means $30,000. By the way, your text has that wrong. That's law. That was passed a few years back. That is the minimum entry salary for a teacher, which is good. But $30,000 in this day and age is not a whole lot. So I'd like you to think about all of those things, and I'd like to think about what do you think? Where are you in the good and the bad, in the point counterpoint? What is it that you believe about becoming a teacher? Teaching takes commitment, a lot of commitment. And, I'd like you to read through this and think about it critically. Give yourself a score on a scale of 1 to 10. And your text lays this out for you. 10 being you're the very committed teacher, to 1 being, not me. Where are you? You don't have to be a 10 to be a teacher, maybe you're an 8, but just think about it because these are important things. Okay, and then I also want to talk about the professionalism of teaching. It has been a long and slow road, and I personally don't believe we're there yet. I talk about teaching as a profession because I want it to be a profession. I believe it should be a profession. I think that we need to make it a profession, but I think the ways in which other people view teaching does not make it a profession. So take, for example, some of the canned curricula out there. There are states, districts, schools who have adopted these teacher-proof curriculums, where a teacher becomes more or less a technician that just reads and does what the curriculum. I'm sorry, I'm trying to prop my book up and it's falling down. Everything is there. It's all scripted. Teachers just say what they need to say. Kids do what they need to do. I mean, this is teaching at its worst. But this is what a lot of people think about when they think about, teaching, that anybody can do it, I don't believe that. So, where are we? Okay, what makes a job a profession? And on page 10, oops, I went to the wrong page. On page 10, there's a list of criteria for professions. And I want to offer you my humble opinion, and it is my opinion. You are welcome to your opinion. But since we're not together in a classroom, I'll offer mine here, and then you can disagree with me. I would invite you to disagree with me, as a matter of fact, because I think we all have our own ideas about that. But I'd like to think about what I think, too. I was a high school teacher for 11 years. And before that, I was a college composition teacher for 2 years. And I continued to teach college comp while I taught high school as well. And so I haven't had 20 years experience, but I've had a fair amount. And I've done a lot of professional development work. I have a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, a doctorate degree. I'm a national board certified teacher. I'm going to talk about that a little bit because I think that's where we can really think about professionalizing our work. And I've done a lot of national work on committees and so forth and so on. And so on page 10, I invite you to look at, there's 12 criteria there. Hmm? Why?
I don't know, it's still, how the back of your leg when you get a Charlie horse.
Knot up.
It knots up. It stayed that way for like days.
Oh, you put some ice on it? Nice.
Yeah. I haven't had any Charlie horses for a couple months either. Charlie's horse.
Oh, it stains the sink. I don't know that stuff. I don't know what it reacts with the. I don't know. I threw it away.
I was thinking maybe I did any of that all the wood it is.
Yeah.
If you rinse it out and somebody uses the stove, then that's kind of like a liability for them. If the wood's there, they don't use it, Maybe it's like those chickens that got one use for. He's annoying. They're shooting when he said, every time I go out to feed them, he attacks me and everything.
Oh yeah, they do.
Bend over to put the food in and he put that behind me.
Yep.
You know what?
What?
I love your work here.
I love you too.
Worked hard this summer.
I'm trying to get these videos done so that they're all ready to go.
Lead sand.
I really should have gone grocery store instead. And I'm being good because Granny fixed my collar, and I be good, Granny. I be good, Granny. I promise I be good, Granny.
She charged it up, did she?
I put a new battery in it.
Whoa.
What did it was, I don't even know if the battery was working. What did it was I filled it. She could hear me filling it in that stuff, and she just like, all Granny's fixing it.
Retro. 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 Yeah, no. Maybe you said you've been to that pub in Brooklyn. You know, why they were messing it down to the boat place or something, but you said food was there. Like a DVD or thing. They laughed at Trent last night. Stop down here and we got gas and Trent got 2 pieces of pizza in the store. So then we go up and we got that kind of early, so we say, let's go and get a 6-pack of beer while we're waiting, sitting in the back lake. So we went up to that store that's just up the road from that racetrack. We went and I went in and got some chips and we got some beer. So now Pepsi was getting something to eat. I forget what it was, So then we get to the, he goes, what do they have to eat out there? And I said, oh, they've got all kinds of stuff. So we got nacho chips and cheese whiz.
Yep.
So we ate those, and Ginny ate like half the french fries. He set them down. You gonna eat the rest of those? One piece of this, we've never had fried dough. I didn't know it must be something new in have it up in the Midwest. I said, well, you've been properly introduced.
Are you going out again?
Yeah.
Just wait for you to leave so I can finish the video. I guess we better have lobsters later.
What?
I guess we better have the lobsters later. Yep.
Okay.
Trying to nail them down to a time, but I can't get anything out of them, so.
Okay. Okay, I'll stay out.
Sorry, I had to stop for a minute. Now I'm back. So anyway, on page 10, I invite you to look at those criteria. There are 12 there. And again, I'm going to offer you my humble opinion. I would argue that most of them apply to the teaching profession, but the ones that I think that we really as a profession have to work on are number 6, 9, 11, and 12. Number 6 says that professional associations control the actual work and conditions of the profession, admissions standards, and licensing. And that doesn't happen. That's taken care of through government. Okay, so we don't have a professional organization that handles all that, like the Bar Association. The Bar Association covers licensing and credentialing for lawyers. The Medical Association covers it for doctors. For teachers, it's the state or the federal government. And then number 9 says there is a high level of public trust and confidence in the profession and in the skills and competence of its members. I mentioned earlier that right now education is under siege. Teachers are under siege. Many people still offer respect to teachers, and they are respectful of the profession. They understand what it means to be a teacher and the commitment it takes, but there are others who don't. And it seems more and more that policymakers who are not teachers do not respect the teaching profession. And so that one we really have to work on. And then 11, the profession itself determines individual competence. That doesn't happen either. The new teacher evaluation law that was recently passed in the state of Maine takes it out of our hands, and it becomes a state mandated that will probably be done by administration and not the teaching profession itself. And then number 12, there is relative freedom from direct or public job supervision of the individual practitioner. The professional accepts this responsibility and is accountable through his or her profession to the society. We have a lot of professional organizations, people, but we are directly accountable, excuse me, and directly scrutinized by the public. So those are the 4, I think, that are preventing the teaching profession from being viewed as a true profession. But having said that, we've come a long ways from normal schools to board certified teachers. And if you look on page, excuse me, I don't tickle my throat. On page 13, you'll see that a teaching contract, and it's for a woman. Now, this is something interesting too. That when teaching began, it was generally male-oriented, and then somewhere along the line, it became feminized, and it became a profession for women. And even today, there are more women than men in the teaching profession. I think it's changing a little bit, but one of the reasons is that the relatively low salary. That is, if you're a breadwinner, then it becomes very difficult to maintain a family on that. And it is that more and more partners in a marriage both partners are working, but even if both people are working in the teaching profession, it really there are other jobs that rival it in terms of income. And so just take a look at that teaching contract, because we used to ask an awful lot of teachers we don't ask now, like cleaning the chalkboard and scrubbing the floor, and not being able to dye your hair or dress in bright colors. It's very restrictive. So we've come a long ways from that, okay? And I want to speak to national board certification, because this is something that I think holds great promise for professionalizing our work. Um, I mentioned earlier that I am a national board certified teacher. The process of going through national board certification is rigorous. Um, one of the most rigorous things I've done, and I, even of all my degrees, and I would even say my dissertation. I think it rivals my dissertation in terms of what it asked me to do. And on page 14, the book gives you the five propositions, core propositions of what it means to be a board certified teacher or to be a good teacher. Teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. Teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experience. Teachers are members of learning communities. They seem pretty simple, but when you think about them, these are really very important things. And some teachers may think that they adhere to these, and others do, but they're very important propositions. And so national board certification is voluntary. You can be a teacher without ever knowing about national boards. And I think only about, I think your book says 3%, I think it's around 4% now are board teachers in the United States are board certified. In the state of Maine, the proportions are even less. I didn't look it up, but I know that you know, it's very small numbers compared to the number of teachers in the state. To be eligible for board certification, you must have taught for at least 3 years. And the process to become board certified includes a portfolio process and then a testing process. It takes a full year to complete, and sometimes even longer, but 1 year is the minimum to complete the requirements. So you might want to take a look at the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards website just to see what that all looks like. I invite you to do that. And then I wanted to address some of the urban legends, okay? I want to, before that though, there is a section there about how teachers are prepared, and it talks about some of the alternative ways of becoming a teacher, and most notably Teach for America, where they take college graduates, give them a summer, like 7-week course, and then put them in a classroom, and there's a lot of controversy there. And so that will lead me into one of these urban legends. Okay. Um, so urban legends. Teachers are born, not made. Some of us may have inherent teaching ability, especially if you come from a large family and you grow up working with children, your siblings and so forth. But you have to have some preparation. I mean, you can't, you're not born an athlete. You may have athletic tendencies, but it takes a lot of practice and coaching to become a great athlete. You might have inherent musical ability, but it takes an awful lot of practice to become a virtuoso musician. So, I mean, to become a master teacher takes a lot of practice and a lot of preparation. Okay. Um, let's see. All you need to know is the subject you are teaching. Well, I'm going to argue about that one too, because it's silly. I mean, you can know a lot about something, but if you can't teach it. You can't get people. And teaching isn't telling. Teaching isn't just saying all you know about it. It's helping students to really investigate and think deeply about concepts and topics. One of the things that happens, particularly with high school teachers, is you could be an expert in your content area, but without the pedagogy, without knowing how to reach students and how to manage a classroom, you can drown very quickly. And then teacher education students are less talented than other college students. And I absolutely disagree with that one. I mean, there are some statistics that say that people in teacher preparation programs don't score as high in the SATs, but I also argue that there are people in other professions who don't as well. And I know. And here's the deal. Again, policymakers are not teachers. And so, the people who are making the policy regarding our profession don't teach. Teaching bashing is rampant. I've mentioned that several times. And we only hear the bad, sorry. We don't hear the good very often. Once in a while we hear about the superhero teacher who, swoops into a low achieving school and creates miracles. Freedom Writers is one of those. And I'm not bashing, the people who do these things, but they're far and few between. Teachers that make a difference, are in the classroom every day with kids and working very, very hard with them. And so I want you to think about those, those legends, okay? I mean, you've heard the saying, I think, those who can do, those who can't teach. That's not true. It's not true. Many people leave lucrative professions to become teachers because they have a passion for teaching. And I know all of you have passion, will have a passion for teaching if you don't already. So then, why then, again, and I know this, the tone of this conversation has been a little bit negative towards teaching, and I don't mean it to be. I want you to go into this with your eyes wide open. Why is there such a national upheaval about education these days? Why is it we hear all the bad and not the good? Again, everybody has experience in school because everybody's been to school. So everybody thinks they know how to fix schools. Okay? And adults tend to romanticize about what school was like when they attended school. I think we've all said this. When I went to school, we had to, we studied harder, we read harder books, we learned more than children do today, and and then we hear about having to, again, your text says, and when they went to school, they had to walk through 4 feet of snow uphill in both directions. I mean, so I think adults tend to romanticize their education and make it sound like kids have it easy today, and so we're not rigorous enough, right? Some people hold unrealistic expectations. They want schools to conquer everything: social ills, academic life, illiteracy, teenage pregnancy, preventing AIDS. I mean, when you think about it, a teacher is more than a teacher. A teacher is almost a parentis and loco. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. And a social worker, a guidance counselor, a confidant. I mean, we're asked to do a lot. Um, and is that realistic? We do it, and we often do it, without complaint. But is that, think about what other profession would you have to take on all those roles? Schools today work with tremendous numbers of poor students, non-English speaking children, and special education students who just a few years ago would not be attending school at all, or would have been in a different school. So our schools are more heterogeneous now. That's a good thing. That's a good thing because we're not discriminating against, huge groups of students. But it's like comparing apples and oranges. Comparing schools today to schools even 20 years ago, they look very different in terms of student population and the students that we work with. Okay. Um, in the Manufactured Crisis, this is a text by David Berliner and Bruce Biddle. They put some of the blame on the press, which is always willing to publish the negative stuff, and sometimes these are really based on questionable resources. And then we don't hear the good stuff. And so the sloppy, biased reporting has damaged the public's perception of schools. I'd like to give you a case in point. I'm not being political, trying to be political here by any means, but it's a little difficult not to talk about the upheaval in education without talking about the governor of the state of Maine, who has made it clear that he thinks that our schools are failing. Made it very clear that public schools are not giving our children the education they deserve. And I won't repeat the words that he's used because I think they're ill-suited. But he had a conference this past spring called the Governor's Conference on Education. It was held at Coney High School, and I attended. He had a lot of people from think tanks around the country who came to talk about what's wrong with education and what we need to do to fix it. I think one or two of the people who were on these panels were teachers. The rest were all policymakers, and they were lawyers or economists, and not teachers at all. And so, case in point is that there was a report from Florida who showed how they had drastically raised test scores in the state of Florida, and it showed a graph of, Florida's way down here, and then it was way up here. Okay, so there was this huge jump, and these are all the things they did to get there, and they're many of the things that our governor's championing: school choice, charter schools, and so forth and so on. And what was interesting, we're here with these Floridians who were asking us to take on some of the things that they did in their state to raise test scores, to raise ours. And they raised their test scores to the level that our students are already at. I was shocked. You know, our students, Maine students were here, Florida students were here. Florida brought theirs up to us, and now that they want us to do what they said so that we can be as good as them. It made no sense to me. And so this is again, the this is public perception. If you say something bad about an institution or a person long enough, people start to believe it. And I fear that with all the teacher bashing that goes on, not just in our state but in other states, and people start to believe that education is horrible. And I was sitting here, I was sitting at that conference, and I overheard a young lady behind me who was there from one of the um, colleges in the state of Maine, and she was talking to the person with her, saying, "I can't believe, that the horrible education I got in X school that I went to, and it's just terrible, the state of education these days." And I thought, but you made it to college. You're here representing your college. They must have done something right, right? So yeah, anyway, I don't want to go on forever about it, but I don't want to just emphasize the bad. There's so much good that goes on in our schools, and I just wish that the press would, be a little more forthcoming with that information. We know that schools don't have enough money. We know that teachers spend a lot of money, their own money, on classrooms, and so as you think about becoming a teacher, you need to be aware of these challenges that are ahead of you. Okay. And so that's it. I'm going to stop there, and ask you to reflect on some of these things in your text, some of these issues of professionalism, of accountability, and think about, you know, why is it that you want to become a teacher? What is it? What is it that drives you to want to teach? And invite you to go to that discussion forum and complete those sentences and reflect on that. The other part of this chapter is it has questions about making yourself marketable and so forth, and those are interesting as well. So you might want to read. You'll want to read through that as well. So that's it for me. Again, I don't mean to emphasize just the bad. There's so much good in teaching, but you do need to be really attuned to the atmosphere there, and I think it'll change. I think that people get tired of hearing all this bad news, and they'll inherently start looking for the good in what we do. And again, most people value teachers, and they value our contributions to their community. They value what we do for their children, and it is a rewarding profession. It really is. Even with all the bad, it's good. There's bad in every profession, so we just have to know about that as we move forward. So with that, again, welcome to the class, and welcome to week 1, and I'll be talking with you soon.